The Miami Dolphins. Why would you put a dolphin as a mascot of your football team? But anyway, the Miami Dolphins started life as an AFL expansion team in 1961. They didn't really go that far in the AFL, but were added in to the NFL with a lot of the AFL teams and put in the AFC East with Buffalo, the Jets, and the Colts. So Miami seemed to be fine. The huge spark plug happened in 1970, the first year of the merger, when Don Shula was lured away from Baltimore into South Florida. The amazing coach that may have undercoached Super Bowl III, but man, Miami had some great defensive players. Manny Fernandez, who was a wrestler, Nick Bioconti, Vern Den Harder, um, Brzezinski, Bo Camper. I know I'm talking about the 80s, but anyway. But they had some nice moves. Miami had some decent running game. Mercury Morris, Jim Kick, and Larry Sonka, and Bob Greasy, who in the late 70s would have to resort to wearing glasses while playing football for the Dolphins. But Miami wasn't perfect. Miami got lucky in the AFC title picture and won the AFC title in 1972, which, well, 71-72, which led them to Super Bowl VI and being blown out by the Dallas Cowboys 24-3. For the longest time until last year's Super Bowl, that being the Rams against the Patriots, the 3 points by the Dolphins were the lowest in Super Bowl history. They still are, but now there's a tie, and that would be the 2019 Rams. So anyhow, the Dolphins regrouped. They picked up Earl Morrall on the waiver wire for $100, and they needed Morrall as Bob Greasy went down with an Achilles injury. Morrall surprisingly shocked everybody by making the Dolphins stay undefeated in that 72 season, even when Greasy came back to start the AFC title game. Morrall knew he did his job, and heck, Morrall got a Super Bowl ring instead. 4 years earlier, he couldn't buy a Super Bowl ring. He was the MVP of the NFL after United went down, but didn't lead the Colts to the Super Bowl. That was the New York Jets, Super Bowl III. But Miami did win Super Bowl VII, albeit only by 7 points. They're up 14-0 when Garo Yepremian has his field goal blocked. Instead of lying down or basically going out of bounds with the ball, which give Washington decent field position, but not that good position, he tried to pass it. Sadly for Yepremian, it got into the hands of Washington's Mike Bass, and after a damn from the sidelines, Miami was now up only 14-7. Thank God that Yepremian's mistake was not the catalyst for a loss. It was a 14-7 Miami Dolphins victory. Dolphins got back just as strong. Their defense helped them, and boy, how did they do it? What was it, -6 yards rushing or something like that? Miami used the running game of Larry Sonka to crush the Vikings and won back-to-back Super Bowls. Miami would not get a piece of a big playoff pie until the 80s when they played that great game against the San Diego Chargers a couple days after the 1981 Orange Bowl. If memory serves me right, or was it 82? Yeah, 1982 Orange Bowl. Remember when the Chargers and Dolphins went to overtime in that hot humidity and all that? Too bad for Miami. They couldn't find a quarterback. Don Strock was a pretty good backup for David Woodley and nearly led the Dolphins to a big victory after San Diego had a, what was that, 17-0 lead after 1 quarter or something? But anyway, the Dolphins found their quarterback in the 1983 draft, Dan Marino. Surprisingly, Pittsburgh decided not to take Dan Marino to replace the now retired Terry Bradshaw. The Steelers took a defensive end by the name of Gabriel Rivera, Senior Smoke, who sadly played only 8 games but got paralyzed in a car crash because he was not wearing a seatbelt. Dumbass. So anyway, he fell all the way to number 26, and Miami, or well, 23, and then Miami just snatched him up. And in his second year, not only did he lead the Dolphins to the Super Bowl, surprisingly, with the super duper brothers of Mark Duper and Mark Clayton, but he threw for more than 5,000 yards and 40 and so many touchdowns or something like that. Records that took a long time to be snapped. But Dan Marino was the man. Miami didn't have a running game, and that might have cost them. But the Niners were just all around. One of the best Super Bowls matchups of all time. Super Bowl 19, Dolphins Niners from Stanford Stadium. It was amazing. And the Miami Dolphins lost the Super Bowl. Sadly, that's the only time they went to the Super Bowl. They had a few chances, including 1993. People forget that the Miami Dolphins hosted the 93 AFC title game against the Buffalo Bills. And Buffalo had to come into Miami to win the game and their third consecutive Super Bowl appearance. I think that was the closest the Dolphins ever got. And all that. Unfortunately, the Dolphins were that bad. Worse, Dan Marino's last official game was a blowout for the other team. They went to Jacksonville in the divisional round and got blown out 62-7. Jimmy Johnson was gone. Dan Marino was gone. Miami's hopes gone to their cross-state rivals. So Miami try again, but Miami has not really had much of a run. The only major playoff run they had was 2008 when they shocked the world by being the top team in the AFC East, taking down New England, the Jets, and Buffalo. The Jets had Favre. The Patriots did not have Brady because Brady got hurt on the first day of the year. Matt Castle did a fantastic job. Miami had to find a quarterback. And the quarterback that the Jets jettisoned, pardon the pun, to get Favre was Chad Pennington, who ended up as the Dolphins, and he used his magic to send the Dolphins to the playoffs. So anyway, Miami sucks now. But anyway, the 93-94 season for the Dolphins was much better. Heck, they were 9-2 to start, and they didn't make the playoffs. How the hell can you do that? I don't know. But here's the thing. Don Shula won his 327th career game. 326, I mean, in Philadelphia to beat George Halas to become the all-time leader in NFL coaching wins. Amazing for Don Shula. And then the next game, the Dolphins won. The final game the Dolphins won that 93 season was the Thanksgiving Day game in Dallas, in which people might have been shocked saying, wait a minute, Dallas doesn't have snow and ice? What the hell? Well, there's an open roof at Texas Stadium, whereas now in Arlington there isn't. But anyway, there was a lot of ice storms. Heck, this is the second best football game to have an ice storm be a catalyst, because the 1979 Cotton Bowl had one at the Cotton Bowl Stadium, the old Cotton Bowl Stadium, and hell, that was a great game between Notre Dame and Houston, wasn't it? But anyway, Leon Lett mistakenly touches the ball. All Dallas had to do was not really touch the ball, or didn't they have like two people that could have just scuffed the football and that ended the game? But no, they had to blame poor Leon Lett. Thankfully, though, it wasn't a touchdown, but Pete Stoyanovich had an easy 18-yard field goal. What about thank you, ma'am? So anyway, Pete Stoyanovich. So anyway, the Dolphins were 9-2, but karma really bit them in the ass. They had 5 more games left and lost them all. In fact, instant replay, if it was there in 93, would have helped the Dolphins make the playoffs, because they got screwed by a late call by a touchdown that wasn't a touchdown in the final game in New England against the Patriots. Now, one note about the 93 Dolphins was that, yeah, they did do the clock play. Or was that 94? No, it was 94 because it was Marino. But anyway, the 93 Dolphins played 7 games without Dan Marino. Marino suffered an Achilles tear that basically ruined his season. So the Dolphins had to scramble to find people. Scott Mitchell and Steve DeBerg were basically what Miami had left. Yes, Scott Mitchell played for a team not named the Detroit Lions. His play with the Dolphins was why the Lions overpaid for him, and he was a laughingstock. The legendary quarterback Steve DeBerg happened. Bertie Kosar was actually a Dolphin because the Dolphins snatched him up. Tried to snatch him up for a playoff run, but Kosar decided to choose Dallas after he was released from Cleveland. So poor Miami. Now, there could be 2 ways to think about doing this playoff scenario. Do we allow Dan Marino to come back, or do we just basically go without it? But knowing Dan Marino's injury, he was out for so many years, so many games. I thought he played the last game against the Patriots, but no. But being true to form, just like the 1999ers, when I put Steve Young in as the real quarterback of that Super Bowl, which Buffalo ended up winning. Hope you're happy, Bills fans. So anyway, my decision is that Marino is not the starter. It's Scott Mitchell. So here's the thing: the 6th seed, which Miami would have taken if they had beaten the Patriots, it was handed to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Pittsburgh went into Kansas City and got taken out in overtime on a Nick Lowry field goal. That Kansas City Chief team was the same Kansas City Chief I mentioned in my Houston Oilers one that went into the Astrodome and beat the 93 Oilers. And of course, J.J. Burden throwing the ball in the snout. I think it was Willie Davis. I can't remember who was that guy. I think it was Burden. Or was it Cash? Maybe that tight end Cash or something. But anyway, regardless, the Chiefs went into the Astrodome, won the game. Unfortunately for the Chiefs and Joe Montana, they lost in Buffalo, and Montana lost his mind being injured. So the playoff format is this. Obviously, Dallas made it all the way through the NFC. We don't touch the NFC. The AFC might change a bit. But my guess is as good as yours. Now, the situation is this. When I look at the NFL playoff picture, it might change because the Kansas City game was on a Saturday. Denver went to LA to play the Raiders and get their asses handed to them. And that meant that the 3-seed Chiefs take on the number 2-seed Oilers, number 4 Raiders against number 1 Buffalo. I thought Houston was number 1 in the AFC that year. Guess not. Regardless of what happened, as we know, Pittsburgh was 6 seed, Kansas City 3 seed. So Miami's the 6 seed against number 3 Kansas City. Now, if Miami wins because of the reseeding, then Miami would have to play Buffalo, which means that the LA Raiders would face the Houston Oilers. We will do that. We will do the Raiders against Oilers, the 93 teams, and then see what happens. Now, if Kansas City, of course, if Houston loses the first game, then they're fucked. If Miami wins over Kansas City, then they play Buffalo. They can ruin Buffalo. But if Buffalo beats Miami, Miami, what am I thinking? Yeah, I am right. Buffalo beats Miami, then Buffalo technically would play Dallas, and that Super Bowl scenario would not be ruined. So that's how it's going to be. Hopefully, I don't have to reseed for anybody. So here we are. The 9-7 Dolphins take on the 11-5 Kansas City Chiefs. Scott Mitchell is at quarterback, and Joe Montana for the Chiefs. So simple. If the Chiefs win this game, then the scenario is basically over because the Chiefs would have played Houston. Let's see what happens. Well, I was right. Well, this is a quick 3 and out, if you will. As the Dolphins do make things happen. Let's just look at the box. Let's just look at the thing. So no score until Nick Lowry gets a field goal with 4 minutes left in the first quarter. And then Miami scores a touchdown after a 58-yard play by Scott Mitchell, who gave Keith Jackson the touchdown. Miami makes it 7-3. Unfortunately, Kansas City comes back near the end of the quarter as Montana gives it to Marcus Allen, and he goes into the end zone. A 44-yard touchdown play. Okay. After Miami makes it 14-10, Kansas City gets possession to start the fourth quarter, and they use their 14-play, 65-yard thing, as Montana gives Willie Davis the catch and a touchdown on 3rd and goal, making it 17-14. Dolphins have a chance. Unfortunately, they don't get much. Kansas City punts the ball. Miami has a chance with 1:41 left. Higgs caught behind the line for 2 yards. DeBerg gets sacked. They decide to go with Steve DeBerg for some reason. And Miami gets bit. Nick Lowry decides to kick a field goal just to sour Miami further. Final score 20-14. So you see there, that's how it went. Joe Montana, the hero. Higgs not well. Marcus Allen 67 runs. That's not half bad. Marcus Allen with a touchdown catch. Willie Davis with one. Keith Jackson. I decided to go with the Berg after Scott Mitchell's poor 9 for 18 performance. Joe Montana 2 downtown catches. The only pick was by Albert Lewis. Nick Lowry missed a 43-yard field goal. That's okay, 39-35. So, yeah, that was quick. So now I don't have to be petrified about doing the 94 playoffs because everything is just as it was. Normal.